Shit. So joining us this week, Zack Schearer of Schearer Speed, LLC. I can say that because there's stickers all over. Keeps it easy for me. You're based out of
Reading.
Reading.
So we're right near like the Reading Airport area. It's kind of where we're at. So we kind of
in that industrial park back there.
Not in the industrial park. We're kind of a little to the right of it right now. So we're actually working out of kind of our home right now.
Okay.
For now, so we don't have a shop, but we are
right on, man.
Right close to needing one. So
small business Saturday was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So you do like CNC and custom millwork and stuff like that?
So I kind of, it's actually me and my wife that do it. So we started about a year ago. So we both were machinists by trade. So
Your wife's a machinist?
Yes, she is very badass, I must say.
Nothing wrong with my wife. Nothing wrong at all.
Yeah, she's
that's awesome though.
She is. I will say she's a one of a kind for sure.
Yeah.
She rips motors apart,
welds and shit.
Yes,
that's
welds
awesome.
And rips her dirt bike apart, rebuilds it. She's a little bit of a tomboy, but she's good at it. So cleans up nice too. So. So she's a machinist by trade too. I actually met her while I was a machinist and she wasn't. So she was kind of interested in it. It's ironic how we kind of first met. She was like asking what machining was, what's this, what's that, and then kind of just went from there.
Right.
And here we are now. So I've been doing it for probably about 8-9 years now. She has about 5 years of it.
On your own?
Yeah. Not with our business, just with machining in general. So I started out at first I worked for Bosch up in Bethlehem.
Okay.
So we made the hydraulic valves for all John Deere tractors. So it's like a valve stack, the PTO drives in the back, and they use that. That was like a high production area, but really precise. The accuracy is just through the roof on measurement. So went there, and then they actually relocated that facility, like that operation, back to Germany. And then I actually got a job down here close to Reading, which was nice. So I worked for a aerospace manufacturing company. So we did a lot of stuff for Sikorsky, Boeing, Lockheed Martin.
Jeez.
A lot of really cool stuff. A lot of composites.
Probably can't talk about. Yeah.
When we turn this off, maybe we can. But yeah, some really cool parts there. I just went in as a machinist and kind of worked my way up, was kind of the shop supervisor, and then actually became their programmer to make new molds, tools, parts there. So did that for a little bit, and then actually in that time frame was like, I kind of want to do my own thing. I kind of want to start my own thing. I don't want to regret it down the road for not trying. So it initially started out as actually like, hey, like, let's buy a machine so we can like play on the weekends with it. And I was like, well, why don't we start a business?
I've had this conversation and it's gone nowhere. It's gone nowhere. I've had it with more than just my wife. Like I've tried to convince my bosses about it. I've tried to talk friends into it, like my family members.
I think we've talked about it on here. Buying a 3D printer.
Any reason I can get either a CNC or a 3D printer, I'm in good shape.
Goodness. So that's kind of how it started. And then we were like, all right, let's like kind of roll with it, make some parts. And it just was like this snowball that started small and went. Right before we started, I was talking to Casey. Last Black Friday, we bought our first machine. It was used from another machine shop, but last Black Friday, me and my dad were like fumbling to carry this machine, and we're like, where are we going with this? Like, how does this lift? How does this move?
Is it like a tabletop CNC?
No, it's actually so it has a work envelope of about 16 inches by about 10 inches by about 16. So it's pretty big. It's about 1,000 pounds. It's a pretty big size. So we can
what does it cut with?
So we can totally get into that. I got some really cool show and tell for that.
This is your show, man. Go at your pace.
So
I'm hoping you're going to open that book up and it's going to be all carved up and shit.
Well, so you mentioned 3D printing, so let's kind of go to this thing. This is a little show and tell. So I have a 3D printer as well. So this is kind of like there's multiple with machining, CNC machining. There's all types. You have like lathe turning, where actually your material is what's spinning, and then your tooling is coming in and cutting.
Sure.
You have CNC mills, where usually you're used to probably seeing like a 3-axis where the bed moves, the head moves, and it's all vertical. Then you have 5-axis machining, which is really cool, where you have multi-axes that get pretty fancy.
Draw in 3D, pretty much.
It's pretty crazy. So you have that, and then
would be the one we want.
Yeah.
Sign up for Patreon.com.
More accesses, the better. That's what I always say.
/Chickenduck.
So this is just like a 3D printed part that I got off. I just kind of brought it around. You can see. So that are you familiar with 3D printing at all and how it works? Okay. So
he's probably not.
So it starts as like filament on a spool. So it almost looks like fishing rod or fishing string, and it kind of just goes through a head that melts and layers it out and prints it, and it just kind of keeps building up in layers. So they call that.
It's way more rigid than I would expect it to
Yeah.
be. I
solid.
Yeah, hell yeah. I honestly have never physically used one.
Okay.
I've never.
Okay.
That's probably the first, to my knowledge, the first 3D printed part that I've actually ever physically felt. I would have assumed it would have been
hollow, or
I don't know, not hollow, but like more pliable or
Yeah.
malleable.
So that's actually so what this is called in
Malleable.
That's a word of the day.
You like that?
So this is the technical term they call this in the field is additive machining. So additive manufacturing. So you're adding the material, where like machining is called subtractive machining. So you're removing the material, starting with a blank. So this piece component itself is when you were talking about flexibility, that would be called like the infill. So you have different infill levels that you can control. You could say, hey, I want to print this fast and cheap. Doesn't need to be strong. It's kind of just a statue.
Prototype or something.
Yeah, maybe you have 10% infill, so that means it's 90% air in the inside. So I believe this piece, I think when I did this, I'm kind of just looking at the bottom. You can kind of see that. That's maybe like 30, 40% infill. So you can see those like shapes. So that's just the strength and different levels. So this is actually a, I just pulled it out of the bin. It's actually a bullet goes into an AR-15 and actually goes into the bullet buffer, and it's like a flag to show that nothing's in it. So it's kind of like an indicator.
Oh.
So it's like a dead no round indicator. So
So it's not a firing piece or
no.
functioning
It's
piece
kind of
of
like you keep it in your closet. You want to make sure nothing's
You hear
in
that,
it.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Can't take us down over some nonsense.
like a safety type
Yeah,
thing.
kind of
right?
like a safety piece. So so that's kind of, the additive manufacturing.
Can I see that again?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So
I mean, like, how do you? I guess do you just build it and test it to figure out? Is that
figure out what you're going to kind of do with it. So that was, you have different levels. So you have your what's called like the slicer software, where that's actually what tells it how to build it. So this is built really slow to
I
give
was
it
going to
accuracy.
ask how long.
If
of
I had
a
to estimate,
print?
this probably was maybe 45 minutes.
Oh,
So not too bad. Pretty
No.
small.
No,
But if you have to make
probably
Yeah.
a bunch
you're
of
not
them.
making one,
Right.
Yeah.
I got
Yes.
this $4,000 printer. I'm going to make one of these bullet flags.
Yeah.
now.
So 3D printing is pretty new, and a lot of people are super excited about it and how it works and what they're doing.
Hey, bye. Sorry. Bye. Love you. Bye.
So a lot of the 3D printing is new, and it's very exciting and cool, but it has its place. Machining has its place there. I don't think one will ever replace the other.
Right.
Just based off time and finish, and you could. This is a perfect example. This would probably be better to 3D print. You can make this in 45 minutes. Or
Right.
if you machine it, maybe it's an hour. But you start with something larger. It's easier to get a blank and machine it down and
Sure.
go from there. So, so you were asking about what do you cut with? So we're gonna geek out here a little bit.
Now, is that filament, like, that is just, I could go to the store and buy that?
Yeah. So actually, the 3D printer that I use, believe it or not, is actually a Dremel brand, and it's actually, you could go to a store
Just
and buy.
nothing special about it.
When I bought it, it was maybe like $1,100, if that. You can get them now for $700,
Right.
if that. So, and that filament, a full spool would be maybe $25.
Could you do me a favor and go home and print one up for me?
Absolutely,
Print
absolutely.
a 3D printer.
Yeah, print a 3D printer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
It's
Well, I was actually
Interception.
I was actually so busy, which is a good problem to have. I actually wanted to make some type of Chickenduck thing for you, but you're still gonna get something.
plenty of
So-
time, man. We're not going
so
anywhere.
I like to make like a coaster, something cool like that, or an ashtray, something.
Casey, he's got all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, we can wander over after this. So, kind of to segue into that, you were asking about like cutting tools. So I brought this massive book just to show you. This is one manufacturer of just cutting tools, and if you look at how many
Holy
options
shit.
there are, I mean, it just goes.
Those are
and
just
goes
bits.
and goes. Yeah, so you can just see it just keeps going and going and going, and that's just one manufacturer's
I mean,
current year catalog. So the amount of tooling you select and the application and where it goes there is literally math and equations you have to do to calculate what to use. So
My God.
yeah.
I mean, at what point are you like, all right, get the regular bit?
Yeah, so it's pretty it's
Go
pretty
down to
interesting.
Radio Shack. That's crazy.
Are they around anymore, Radio Shacks?
There's one. There's one in New Holland.
Really?
Yeah.
In the country.
They're privately owned, probably.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it's the only place.
That's like I saw there's one
Blockbuster.
Yes.
Yeah, in
Alaska
Oregon.
or
Oregon. Yeah.
and they still have the cards. Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
So did you go to school for this, Zach, or did you just learn everything from your
Man,
other jobs
I
and
pretty much
just-
stumbled
Hey,
into
we're
it.
talking about cutting tools.
Yeah, I know. It's
Back up.
You read
We
the
got-
book and we'll get back to
We
you.
have 4 inches to talk about. Okay. So these are for cutting steel,
Anything.
aluminum,
Steel, aluminum,
metal,
any
generally.
material. Well, this is carbon fiber, so there's special tools to cut
shit.
carbon
This weighs
fiber.
nothing.
Yeah,
This weighs
so
nothing.
so you have composites
Jesus.
and woods and everything.
get
it
So-
like-
looks a lot heavier than
That's-
that.
yeah, and that's
Pro-
actually
all
an
the
aluminum.
bullet oh, okay.
That's
Yeah.
actually an aluminum ring on the front. So if you took that off, that would even be lighter. Yeah.
So, and what is this?
That is actually the front part of a handguard. So like a handguard for like an AR, or it's actually for a short barrel AR. So
A lot of your work?
I knew it was going to be
no,
firearms?
actually, to be honest, no, because it is very expensive to get into,
I'd
very
imagine.
competitive, and the insurance is through the roof.
I'd imagine that would
No.
be like liability
So, yeah,
involved.
so that's why these things are ones that are just sitting around the house
Sure.
because they're just tests,
we
prototypes,
did this.
run,
Yeah.
just kind of for fun, stuff like that.
I mean,
So,
carbon fiber is expensive.
yeah, very expensive.
So, how did you you bought a tube of carbon
Yep.
fiber?
So that would have been a tube that actually was bought, and then ends cut, and then this is actually what's called like a slot milling section. So that actually just got side milled out. Show you a tool that would do that, and then this is just a ring that was turned on a lathe and composited, bonded in, and that's it. So
It's crazy.
I want to see your shop.
yeah, it's
pick this stuff
I
up.
get
We're going on a
so
road trip.
I get so amped up talking to people that don't know machining.
Yeah.
It's like it's funny. We'll be out at a bar or something, and I'm pretty sociable, and someone will be like, "Oh yeah, Zach does machining. Oh, what's that?" I'm like, hold on, how much time?
Let me
do you got?
let me get my show.
Get me, yeah. I got a carry bag when I come. So, yeah. So it is unbelievable the what goes into selecting tools, and then when not only the tool, now you need to give the parameters of the tool to run at, the speed, the feed, the surface footage. So
Once you figure that out,
yeah,
and well, okay, no, back that up because you need a customer first saying
Yes.
this is what I need. I need like this weird, goofy thing made out
widgets.
of
I always say this
yeah,
widget.
and I need it made out of this material.
Yep.
And then you say, okay, I need to make these kind of cuts, and I need this kind of bit. You go in this reference, and then you buy it that bit just
Yep.
for this one job. So that tool for this.
Yes and no. So, like, I have a pretty decent selection of tools.
Okay, so that, I
at
guess
my
that would be the
disposal.
easiest
Yeah.
question. Like you
So,
have a set that
I
gets you
probably
through
have a
most
couple
of your
hundred
jobs.
tools that are
Right. Sure.
my go-to. I know what I have, and then this is more or less like, okay, I got this weird.
NASA called last week.
Yeah.
I need to make a
Yes,
yes,
I got this
tail rotor.
hardened piece,
Right.
and I need to make this. It's like, okay, well, we can do that.
Right.
So,
That's awesome.
yeah, so that's just kind of to show you, and that's one of thousands of tool vendors out there that are selling different things. So, back to kind of what you were saying, how did I get into it? I did not go to school for it, and I actually went to school for automotive, be a mechanic. Did that for a while, really, really liked it, and then just kind of was looking for a little bit of a change. I was really interested in the parts on the car, how they're made, and kind of just made a transition and got into machining as just like a put this part here,
Right.
entry level part loader, and then just kind of
Started
hit the ground and running.
playing with it and-
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I always tell people find a job that you love, find a job that isn't a job that you're just like, this is fun.
Yeah.
So, and it's really like
That's why we're both podcasters.
yeah.
Really pay the bills.
Yeah.
Finally. Those
It pays for the website, at least.
To start, you got to start somewhere.
not for Skype though. $3 a month. So you brought tool are those
Yep. So these are different tools. These are just ones I kind of looked at my bin and was like, let's bring some down.
Do you ever work with like do you have like a water jet or anything like that?
I've used water jets. I don't own one. They're big, noisy, messy, and they break a lot.
Right.
That's just my opinion. They're great for certain applications. But it's such high pressure water, and the quality of water that goes into there is so critical. And you know, you need highly filtered, correct pH levels, softened water, and it just eats away. You'd be surprised what water can do to valves and stuff.
Oh man,
So,
well, I mean, you figure it's the only reason I ask is like I've seen that one of our manufacturers has a monstrous table,
yeah.
and it's all, you know, they drop a file in from a computer that overlooking this, and it's on the factory floor. There's pieces of 5-inch steel sitting next to this.
Oh, yeah.
That are, you know,
Doesn't even blip through an
they
inch.
can cut a flower in it. They can do whatever they want.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen about up to, I think it's about 9 inches of steel get cut on.
That's
water
insanity.
jet. Yeah,
With
it
water.
is. Just
Yeah,
water.
that's crazy.
Well, it's actually they use something with the water called garnet. So what actually is water? The water is the high pressure force going through, and then it creates like a Venturi effect where you're actually pulling this looks like sand. They call it garnet that actually does the cutting. So the water actually isn't cutting, it's actually the garnet that's going through. It's an abrasive media that's going through there, and then there's different types of that, and that's a whole nother science to get into. So
That's wild.
it is machining. I always say is like one of those fields that you get into, and till the day you retire, you're going to learn something.
Yeah,
it
it
just
seems that
always
way.
changes and evolves. It's cool. So I just grabbed a couple tools, and like this is just a very common tool. They call that an end mill. This is a 3-flute end mill, and you can keep it in this one so you don't.
3 fluters.
3-fluter, there you go. So that's a 3-flute end mill. It's very common. You can do a lot of things with that. You can do, face the top of something. You can mill with the side. You can helix down into a hole. You can do a profile. So it's a very, very common.
What does something like that run?
That tool, that's a 3-flute 45-degree helix. That's probably like a $40 tool.
Oh, okay.
So
you'll that's a project where it depends on the size of the project, I'm assuming. But I mean, I'd have to imagine that's like similar to a drill bit. You could probably resharpen it.
Oh, yeah.
and
That's
use
what I
it
was
for
gonna
a
ask
good
you.
amount
yeah,
of time.
you can get them, use them, and now this material is carbide. So this is a carbide material that is actually very, very hard. So this is where like kind of the science of the tool.
I mean, so I had to stop there
Yeah.
for a second because you're a machinist. I would assume that you would have the capabilities of sharpening a tool in your, like, once you have that.
yeah.
Like, do you have? Assuming they get down to like a nub that's like the chef's knife that's been whittled down to like nothing.
They get down to
Oh my god.
this, and if you drop it, don't feel bad. This is a
The cat ate it.
10,000th end mill. So I don't see the tip of
I
that.
didn't want to hold that.
Yeah, so that's a cutting tip of that. That's
Get
actually
the hell out of here.
if you take 2 pieces of paper and stack them on top of each other, that's how thick that is.
Holy
and
shit.
that tip, so the bottom, when
See
I'm
the tip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Your
what you're talking
eyes
about. The
even
tip.
work
Yeah.
better.
the tip is
my
actually
eyes.
what's cutting. The end is just a hold on.
Now that's actually used for something. That's
Yes.
not like
What?
whittled down.
No, this
that's
is bought from. And if you actually put this under a microscope, you would see
Similar.
the same detail of
Of
those
that.
flutes and stuff there.
Holy shit.
I mean, what is that for? Like a drill for ants? What? How small is the tool, the machine that goes?
Just any machine. It could be a big machine. It's
So
actually
you have like an adapter and then another
yeah.
adapter.
So actually, see how that shank's that
machine
size.
sits all the way up there. It's just something out of Pinky in the Brain.
So that would be something that would requires a high detail, maybe a medical device, something
Sure.
like an implant or something that requires really small engraving or
Precision.
something. So yeah, this is I can't exactly say what I would have needed that for, but we've had it for something. Probably maybe some engraving.
Carve
something
the
like that.
tiniest chicken duck.
Yeah.
Wherever you go.
You could so one of the we went to a trade show. Like there's this big trade show out in Chicago every 2 years. It's called the IMTS, a big trade show. It's basically like Comic-Con for machinists, and you just geek out all week.
Do you get $80 signatures for stuff?
And then I think I
don't know
heard,
who
I think
does
I heard about that. And then get people that are like
Sweet
rowdy
Jesus.
to like sit behind you and make too much noise. Is that?
You get them
Careful.
thrown out.
And then get them
Careful,
thrown
yeah.
out, and then you got to hide in the bathroom
You'll
for
be
an hour.
you'll be asked to leave. Nobody's safe.
Yeah. So we were there, and actually one of the machines, higher end machines, it had a very similar tool to this, really small. They had a grain of rice, and they were actually writing Kern into it, which is the name of the machine company that makes it. They were engraving in a piece of rice.
Wow.
What you would need that for, I'm not sure.
I feel like that's a missed opportunity to use corn.
Yeah.
Company's called Kern.
Kern corn.
Sorry,
That was good.
I'll
That was
let
good.
myself out.
So it's
That's incredible. I mean,
So these are all for the CNC machine that you
Yep.
bought.
Yep. So this is all for the CNC machine that we do. So like this tool here, this is where getting into like what I said, the science of it. So knowing your speeds and feeds are important. So how you run this tool, what RPM, what depth of cut, what feed rate that you're cutting with can either make this thing last a very long time or break in the first time you use it. So a lot of that is knowing how deep to cut, how fast to go, what to spin it at. So that's where a lot of the calculations come into play with the material you're cutting and stuff. So this one specifically is for aluminum. This would last pretty long as you don't get crazy with it.
Sure.
So, but also time is money. So you're trying to balance that. Okay, I can go a little faster to make the parts a little quicker, but then, your consumables go up. So that's similar to an end mill, and we went over the little guys. So what else we got here? So this would be a tool that you'd use for like high material removal rates. Say we had this book and you want the book to be hollow and it's steel. You'd use something like this and you'd kind of plunge in and just chug along into it. And then those are actually inserts. See how they're screwed in?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So those inserts actually will screw out, and you can flip the insert around and replace them, and those are pretty cheap.
Wow.
So
I'm assuming they're all carbide.
yep, those are carbide, and the body then would be like a high-speed steel.
When you say speed, like what RPM is this something like this spinning at?
So if I was doing that in steel, I'd spin it at probably about that diameter, probably about 1,500 RPMs. Yeah, feed at maybe 10 inches a minute.
Does
Heavy too.
your waste material work? I mean, do you have a vacuum running, or does it not really
So-
fly all over the place like I'm picturing it?
That's
or-
a great question, because actually, that's actually sometimes half the battle. If we were doing this pocket and the chips are down in there,
I would
they've
assume
been
that.
cut.
I mean, we're talking that this is a block of steel.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's
yes.
a lot different than if it's a block
Yeah,
of paper.
yeah.
Molten metal.
Yeah.
Shavings all over the place.
So you have those, your chips, and you got to get them out of the way, because if you try to recut something that's been already cut, it can wear the tooling down, stuff like that. So a lot of times you see in shops they run like coolant, like a flood coolant, where
Right.
you're basically just almost looks like garden hoses squirting at
Bath.
it, gets all
Oil.
the chips out, goes through a chip conveyor, goes out, gets recycled.
Right.
Some things you can use is like a spray mist. So you're shooting like air with little droplets of oil in there. Sometimes you use just straight air. Certain customers, depending on what the application is, like carbon fiber, if this was getting in a military application, with the ends being cut, it can absorb oil. So you would not want to use a certain coolant would have to be like water soluble. So you'd have to be able to rinse it to get the oil out. Where if not, you would have this then soaked in oil, and it could.
How did you find that out? Is that just because that seems like something that you would learn a hard lesson about and never forget?
Yes. It was actually through one of our customers that I worked at a previous place. They were some drones, and they had to get painted, and they didn't specify that the coolant could not come in contact with the parts, and things got painted, and they were not very bubbly, and I'm like, I think we got a problem here. So that was just an example of it. So
Just the way that you said that, it just seemed like
Yeah.
I've been down that road. That's why I know
once
so
and done.
much about my field. I've screwed so much.
What do you do?
I'm in sales for a
Okay.
so
okay.
I commercial industrial jobs,
Okay.
but public bids, stuff like that. So
Cool.
It's okay.
You're in the roofing too, or
Yep.
no? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. I
Okay.
inspect Home Depots. I determine if Home Depot needs a new roof or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you travel to Home Depot?
No, just
Yeah.
the same one.
Same one. And he keeps going up top.
He goes up every week. Yeah,
Yeah, I've been
They're
to
very serious about it.
February will be 3 years, and I've been to 28 states.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you always traveling around
Yeah.
and seeing
Yeah, it's
cool
pretty
stuff.
sweet,
And
yeah.
Finds every Paul Bunyan in the country.
Are you guys same company or no? Different companies?
No, different
Different
companies,
companies. Okay.
Yeah, I all my stuff's like, fire doors and stuff
Okay.
like that. So it's not all of it. I shouldn't say that, but it's relatively boring.
I remember. I think you were
I get
saying
to see
you're
some
out of
cool shit.
Lancaster. You're based
Yeah.
out of Lancaster. Okay. Cool. Cool.
He's a long-time listener.
Yeah.
Yeah,
feel like you've been on some drives.
More than,
I can
more
say.
than me. This is more than I do.
Yeah.
So let's say you get an order for a part like that.
Yes.
Can you only make one of those at a time, or?
Yeah. So you normally yes and no. So what I would do is obviously you want to maximize the less time you can stand there and operate it. So perfect example. Last night we had a job Bree was running, and we had to make 96 of these little blades, these little pointed blades. And, you look at it, you're like, all right, I don't want to put a part in 96 times, take it out 96 times. So, we start with a blank, and we load it in, and it made 4 parts. Done, 4 parts off. Put another one in, 4 parts in. So, then you have a tool changer that changes the tool automatically and does all the milling. So you want to try to maximize as much as you can, especially on repeat jobs. So, we have a special job that's repeat. And go ahead.
You have there's a component that changes the tool when it needs to change?
Yes.
What?
Yes. So it's called a tool changer. So what it actually is, it hangs off.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it hangs off the side. And so like say, let's look at this, for example. So if I was making this, I would need a end mill, like we talked here. And it would come in and slot this, do all these slots. And then I would want to drill that. So I would need a drill.
It would pick that drill.
Yep. So then it would stop, come up, go away, bring the drill out, come down, drill as needed.
It's insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skynet, man.
Yeah.
It's great. They're coming to take over.
You have to come check it out sometime. It's fun.
Tied up to a table, they'll be drilling holes in me. This is making me very uncomfortable. That tiny. Since you showed me that tiny bit, I'm really not.
So we'll go to this real quick. Come right back to the tool since we're on small stuff. So this is what we would call like a test indicator. So this is an indicator maybe to check something, maybe to check positioning. You see if you move that needle, you see it kind of moves. Yeah. So this measures down to it's in metric. It measures down to 1 micron. A human blood cell is 6 microns wide. So this can measure the width of a human blood cell.
I don't want to touch it.
Oh no, you're okay. So that's just.
Why is it so heavy?
That's to get down to accuracy. So sometimes you have accuracy that needs to get down to that level.
And does that hook up to a computer, or what? How does that?
So this would be.
Do you have to read that?
Yeah. What the frick am I even looking at?
So touch the little. They call that like the needle. Just move that. You see how the lines move on there?
Yeah.
So you would have this in a stationary, say, almost like our mic hold here. You'd have that stationary, and then maybe I'd move the machine or spin something that would then touch this, and then you would see kind of how it moves, and that would tell you where you're at. So that can measure down to 1 micron, which is
very little.
yes. When I worked at Bosch, just to give you an idea, in the hydraulics components themselves, there was a bore that was about maybe 10 inches long. It had to stay as straight as 1.5 microns. It could not deviate in straightness from 1.5 microns. So that needed to be straighter than what a human blood cell is.
Holy crap.
And that thing's just...
Whip that out of the foreman on a job site
Yeah.
and check his floor with it.
Yeah.
See what he says.
So that's just to show you, you wouldn't think that goes into a
That's insane.
tractor, but that's the accuracy that goes into a tractor.
Well, it makes sense, though. I mean, there's got to be a very low tolerance for any kind of deviation when you're talking about hydraulics and stuff like that. I mean, any
thermal expansion, everything like that. That was a big factor. Knowing what temperature it was outside was important to machine at that. So that was a high volume job. Like that was always the same 6 parts day in and day out. But it was always something you had to adjust and tweak and look at.
Crazy.
It's almost like you could breathe on the parts.
Well,
and
it's
change
hot
them.
out today, guys.
Yeah.
You gotta change
Let 'em
everything.
again.
Yep. So,
Wow.
So that's something there. So kind of another tool. This is a kind of a cool one that you guys might be able to relate to a little bit. So you know what a tap is.
Yeah.
Tap a hole. This is another similar thing that you would do, but this is called a thread mill. So what this actually does is this actually is a single flute thread mill that actually, if I was making a hole, I would actually come in and do this.
So you can adjust your thread and everything with
yes.
So that makes the thread that like a bolt or
super
whatever
accurate.
Go into.
So this is a single point, and then this tool. Let me see what this says. This is so this can do pitches anywhere from like a 10 pitch up to a 24 pitch. So you're not limited on what you can do. I could have a 1-inch hole, and now I can helix this in. So that way you don't have to have a couple hundred taps on hand.
I mean, you could do that at an angle. You could do that.
Yep.
I mean, whatever.
Sideways.
Stuff that you couldn't do in a field.
And what's
with
nice is you can do what's called compensation on that. So you would run it, and you're like, okay, you measure it, and I was like, it's kind of tight. Let's bump it out, bump it down, bump it up. You can go into a blind hole. So one of the biggest things with taps is, you hit the bottom of a hole. You need threads all the way to the bottom. You can achieve it with that.
Wow.
So good thing I grabbed these before we left.
That's pretty cool, man. I didn't even think of that.
Yes, that's another form we do called thread milling, and you can get very accurate threads on that. And that's another thing that's really nice with that. So say you guys wanted this, go back to the old book here. You wanted 10 different threads in here. I could achieve that with one tool instead of 10 taps.
Wow. So and this
You might
is
need
all
to cut this out, but I have a question.
and this is all with the same machine too.
Yes.
You can do all this
Yep.
different stuff
Yep.
with the.
All right. So
Watch yourself.
no, I'm looking for a pencil. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. I could lose my job. Let me phrase this in a way that doesn't incriminate me. So if I had a motor that had a cap on the top, that when you remove the cap, there was an exposed, looks just like a, I don't know, it's flat. Let's put it that way, and it's steel. If I could get that motor disassembled and get that shaft, we'll call it, you could drill into the top of that with that thread.
You would drill first. You need a hole first.
Right,
to start.
right.
And then you
would
could thread that. Yes. You need a business card? You got ideas?
Oh, I have. You have no idea the ideas that I. Yeah, I don't need a business card. No.
It's right in front of you.
No,
Well-placed sticker,
It's
Casey.
actually. We'll talk about it later.
So I think I got two more little tools we'll show you. So this is another one similar to the end mill. We'll call this like a ball mill. So, and also anybody listening, you should definitely watch the YouTube. You'll see all the
The fun
video
stuff.
cues in this.
Yeah.
Trying to bump up those YouTube views.
Yeah, thanks. Show and tell, man.
So that's we call that a ball end mill. So that would be doing for profiling. So say we want to make this microphone, okay? To achieve this curvature here, we would want to basically I would do like a spiral toolpath where we'll start in the middle, keep working our way out like this, and keep working our way down. And we'd use the radius of that to achieve the radius of that. And then the step downs you do, the tighter step down you do, the higher accuracy you'll see. It's almost like if you would look at this, you can kind of feel those lines.
Sure.
You would feel a little bit of that, but you can actually get to the point where you have no scallop, they call that,
Right.
and you would have a perfect tool. So
Do you need a salesman? Doesn't sound like it.
yeah.
You're doing pretty good on your own.
It's,
because I'm ready to buy whatever you're selling.
It's funny, like doing this. We're pretty green in the industry. Me and my wife, we doing a year, and making the parts is the easy stuff. It's the accounting and the booking and the taxes and the we went to the accountant last year, and I left. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is just too much. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what depreciation and all this, and I'm sitting there with a book at night trying to learn accounting.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, I just want to make parts.
That was my worst thing when Steve and I had the business built to last. I mean, I was not interested in that part at all.
What an ironic business name.
and it did not last.
No.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It's not even talking to customers or making the part. It's all the other crap, man.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's certainly not easy. That's
So
for sure.
this, I gotta even read the label. It's that small. So this is a 31 thousandths ball end mill. So that same tool, but an extremely small tip version for. Look at that face.
I understand the computer has its own spatial awareness. I just don't understand. It's amazing to me how far we've come.
Yeah.
It's
pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, and it's like I stumbled into machining, but it's crazy if you realize how much around us it is.
Yeah.
And it's really scary because I don't like to use the term a dying art because it's busier than ever, but not many people are getting in the field. Kids aren't being exposed at school to this trade.
No.
I had a machine shop in school, and it was just like, hey, don't hurt yourself and go play with it,
Yeah.
And it's, a lot of woodworking.
Build
but,
this bench.
yeah, build this, hey, the birdhouse project. But machining is it is insane how everything you look at is done, even plastic. So like this phenomenal
Careful,
bobblehead
Ed.
here. I'm gonna put it back down.
He's broken.
The phenomenal bobblehead. I see the crack.
Why don't you take him with you and fix him up?
So you can see his, the profile of his head. That had to get, that's plastic of some type or ceramic, whatever we got. So that head, the outside shape of that head had to get made into some type of steel tool. That's a mold for that to get made. So you may wonder where you would use this.
So there's a steel reverse of that.
head somewhere out there that
Frankie
somebody had to make.
Who's got the steel mold of Frankie's head?
So, you could take this tool and you're like, what would you use that for? And, I'm looking
I
right
would
here.
make a Frankie ear.
And look, you can
Wow,
go right
yeah.
in his ear cavity. And maybe this would be even too big for some of the details of what his teeth are, or, I'm looking at the
Like the
side
top of
teeth.
his hair and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Look at the detail in the hair. This
Yeah.
tool would be what you would use it for.
Some master craftsman there.
So
Worked on our Frankie bobblehead.
We were when I got that and the action figure, we were trying to figure out how they were made, if it was a mold or
This
if
is
it
true.
was
I do remember that conversation.
3D printed.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
the
have the action figure is right over there.
Oh, okay.
That's our buddy Frankie.
It's everywhere and everything. I could pick up anything and tell you how it was made. I could look at things and say, "Oh, that was a laser cut. That's a plasma cut. This is a mold tool. This was a lathe part." It's everywhere and everything, and it's crazy because it's like it's a great field to get into. It's I wasn't the smartest kid in school. I could barely sit still. I didn't go to college. And, machining, you could walk into the trade making $60,000, $70,000. No problem. With under 5 years of experience. And these guys that have 10, 15, 20 years plus, you could pretty much almost name what you need.
Right.
There's so many people not out there anymore. It's almost like a generation gap. Like you walk into any machine shop right now, it's either.
Well, you remember when we used to go to Laureldale Tool?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah,
two
right up
dudes
from
are
John's
probably
house.
still there. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're not fancy guys by any means, but the one dude's got a killer bike. The other
Yeah.
guy's got a couple nice cars.
Yeah.
Like they
And
have
they-
some cash.
And they drive that green truck that's, I'm sure, still sits there that they deliver their shit in.
But you go into that place, like we used to go in there, and I remember.
Where's this at?
Laureldale, right by the cemetery in
Okay.
right down the street from
Oh,
HGA.
tool. That's not the Hydeville machine shop. No.
No, that's
No.
down towards
That's
my
at the Nap.
parents' place.
Okay.
in Hyde Park. But very similar. That's. What is that now?
It's a Napa. It's a
Napa,
Yep,
that's
yep,
right,
yep,
yeah.
yep.
But no, there's two guys that
They're brothers. Yeah.
yeah, that have Laureldale Tool, and they look nothing
No.
at all. Like one guy looks like Wolfman Jack, and the other guy looks like he's like an accountant.
Yeah.
But cool dudes. You go into their shop, and there's incredibly cool, machinery. But
Yeah.
it's on a concrete floor with concrete block walls, and it's not it's not like you wouldn't go in like the Apple store or anything. You wouldn't eat off the floor in there.
Yeah, yeah.
But they know what they're doing. It's some wild shit.
And are they older? They're
Yeah, oh, yeah.
older. Yeah, that's kind of what it is. You either walk in a machine shop and the guys are ready to retire, or they're these young green kids. It's
Yeah.
a very weird gap right now.
I'd imagine there's a big technological gap in between there.
Yeah, that's usually what it is too. And the older guys, it's crazy. I learned almost all my stuff from older guys. Yeah, one of the guys that I worked with, he was always afraid to touch the controller because it was a computer and this and that. I'm like, hey, you know everything. You just got to tell me it, and I'll figure out what buttons to push. And we got along great.
Yeah.
It was like he would teach me the science behind
Kind of
cutting. And
got
he's
me
like,
as far as it's got me in life.
yeah. When you're in certain machine shops, you can literally hear things, and you're like, we got to change this because it sounds like this, and he would kind of relay that to me, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna go into here, we're gonna figure this out. It's like Batman and Robin trying to figure things out, but it was cool. I always, if I see any kids that are like, I don't know what to do, I'm like, hey, really look into it. Really look into the trade.
38
Yeah.
kids.
So getting back into the 3D printing thing. So like I asked about, if you have an order for, let's say, like 1,000 of those parts, same thing with the 3D printer. Can you only make one at a time?
No,
like
you can
that, or-
definitely build up multiple layers. Now there is a little catch to that because when you do 3D printing, everything's layers up. So everything is picture almost like stacks of paper getting built. So if you're building, let's say we're building 20 of these, it might not be beneficial to have 20 because it's going to do a layer, jump over, do a layer, jump over. Where if it just stayed committed to that first build, but yeah, you can absolutely do it. I've done that where I've had, hey, let's just build this. And the nice thing about a 3D printer is you kind of set it and forget it, and there's not tooling behind it, so there's less prep work. You kind of have your model, throw it in, give it the specs it needs, and walk away. You can let it build through the night, over a weekend, stuff like that. So 3D printers are when I got mine, we had it before we even had our business. I use it for so much stuff around the house. Like,
really?
hey,
Because I can't justify.
I will bring the wife down and we will figure it out. We'll sit down and say, okay, this is what we need it for. We'll sell her.
My wife?
Anybody's wife. Casey, your wife? Anybody.
I think you're gonna have a hard time.
We can sell it. We can sell it.
First of all, I don't really need to sell it. I'll just go and get one. I just been justifying it to myself as I'm sitting down here looking at it and like,
oh my god,
I don't really. What am I gonna do? Like
stuff you can make. So like
I have a whole drawer full of chicken ducks.
That's what I was gonna say. That's what I was gonna say. So you said you use it like all
I use
around
it.
The house.
We use it
What are
around the
some of
house before even doing anything for people. So like. We have a TV in the kitchen, and it's like, all right, well, where do you put the remotes when it's floating TV? Well, we made this little thing to hold the remotes, and it's kind of floating in there. And
you just designed it?
Yeah,
You
just
designed it on a computer?
Yeah,
or?
designed it with like a so going into that avenue, you have like a CAD software, so computer age drawing that you would use to draw and model it. And you just throw it right to the printer, and the printer sees it. You tell it what to do, and you're done. I've made so much stuff like. I couldn't even, man, like we have lights in our garage and, they're LED lights, but they come with those cheesy chains nobody wants to use. We made these sweet brackets that makes them look like they're hidden up in the ceiling and floodlights outside. Anything and everything has been made 3D printed in our house.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's very convenient.
Guess I'll just do it.
Yeah. Probably can still get a Black Friday deal.
Probably. Tomorrow's Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
Monday.
We'll see.
That's why actually when I was looking at the cameras last night for the second camera, I was thinking I'll just wait until Monday. It might go on special.
So yeah, 3D and like with the 3D printer, like if you're looking for one, get one that's enclosed. So they have a lot of like the cheaper ones that are kind of open air. You'd be surprised how much just a light breeze or a change in temperature will affect that print because the print is, in theory, melting plastic and then cooling it and then bringing it back up. It's self-cooling. But if you cool too fast, you get what's called like a curl, where actually your bottom will actually start to cool too fast and it curls. So biggest thing is get an enclosed one. It'll help with the breathes and so.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right. See that or the water cutting table? Just gonna build one of them up.
Build
Well,
one.
you got to get a 3D printer.
Oh yeah,
and
to
print
print
one.
the
print my
components.
nozzle. What's that?
So this is another form of measurement. So this can go down to, like we talked, measuring blood cell thickness. This is a caliber, you basically, or I'm sorry, a micrometer that you can use to measure things, different things. So like a piece of paper, just to give you an idea, this is a pretty thin piece. So this piece of paper was 80 microns thick. Wait, sorry. 30 microns thick.
That's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know my paper.
Yeah, so you figure 30.
It didn't look like it. I think it's a 30,
So that's just one of our
33.
forms of measurement tools that you use in the shop, checking parts, seeing where they're at. So, and that's a whole nother field too of metrology.
Now it
checking
goes
parts.
to that thin. How wide is it?
This goes to 1 inch. So this is 0 to 1
Wow.
mic. Just a general tool.
That's pretty specific.
Yeah. So this is a just a quick reference book. Just kind of want to show you. This would be cool to see. So we talked about like the machines, how they're making the parts. So everything runs off code. So you could literally look at the machine and know. So you have try to keep it basic here, but you have basically a known origin.
It's
so
all right. The fans are incredibly in touch
there's-
with 3D tooling and printing. Don't worry about it.
If we were gonna make we were going to make Mr. Bobblehead here. We need to give it a start point. So our start point might be the top head, and we call that X, Y, Z, 0. So every move that the tool is going to make in going to that cut is a number relative to that origin. So this whole sweep of his arm would be lines of codes, just hundreds of lines of code that say X, -2, -1, and you just see it rolling around. So it's all code that basically the computer uses to go. And then you have other commands that tell it what to do, like spindle on, stop, reverse, things like that. So these are just some of the codes you can see, like just kind of a quick reference. Different codes mean different things. So like a G90 is a linear feed rate. G90.
Is there one for every letter? Oh my god.
Yeah, so you have G and M codes that do all different
This is why you're on roofs and I'm selling doors, bud.
So now you don't have to know all of them. Those are
I
just
didn't
kind
do
of your
that
quick
good in school
reference.
either, but I don't know. I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the software these days does most of that, right?
It generates it out. So if I'm writing a tool path, it'll put those commands in. But say I have a problem, like, it just cut the bobblehead heads off. Why did it do that? Oh, this code is incorrect.
It's
So
the old G15 Frankie's nose code.
So
There's a lot involved.
yeah,
I would say, yeah.
yeah, I can geek out on it a little bit. I love it. It's so much fun. It's so cool. It's really cool getting, starting with that raw piece of material, whether it's aluminum, steel, brass, copper, and making that end part. It's
Where do you
pretty
go
cool.
about getting that raw material?
So actually, it's a little harder being a small shop like me because I'm not ordering giant quantities.
Right.
So a lot of they call them like the yards, the metal yards, they want to sell truckloads.
Sure.
They want, hey, you got your order this week, here's a truckload. So it's a little tougher being smaller and having smaller sizes. We definitely have our resources to get it. So we usually work with other machine shops and say, hey, you order a lot, let's order from you, and then they can put a small markup on our stuff. We usually do it that way. There's different ways to get it. So usually we have a lot of material in stock as is. So I might be like, hey, this is a common material bar. Let's order 12 feet of it, of this 1 inch by 1 inch bar. Let's order 2 12-foot pieces. We have it in house, and we can use it for stuff like that. So
1 inch bar. Like, how does I'm trying to think. Like, do you just get like blocks of like? Okay.
yeah, yep. You can just order blocks. A lot of stuff comes in bar.
14-inch block of steel.
Yeah,
It's like a block.
yeah. So
And you just shave it whatever you want into
so
it.
usually if you're starting with something, you kind of know like the job. So I keep going to.
No, I just wing it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just start with a big chunk of steel and see where it goes.
So we'll start with we'll go back to bobblehead guy here. So that might be great to start with a piece of aluminum like this. Say we're making aluminum. I might be like, all right, his head, this is about 1 inch. You could see that I might get this size of aluminum, and that's the right size. So now I know, okay, I'm making 4 of those, 2 inch round, get the aluminum, done. Now I know what I'm starting from, and I need to know what my start material is to write the program, because it needs to know what to remove.
Right.
If I have a aluminum block that's this big, it's going to take way more to machine it down.
Sure.
So material usually comes in bar, so you see regular bar, which would be equal numbers, 1 inch by 1 inch, 2 inch by 2 inch, and
Right.
etc. And then you have which would be called like a sheet. So it would be like, okay, it's a 1 inch by 6 inch long. And then you have plate, which would be like sizes of this table.
4 by 8.
So yeah, and then you have your round stock, different round stock, and then you have hex stock if you have something unique. So it's kind of the common sizes that all the vendors sell.
Do you remember those long blocks of aluminum that Jan would get for the snow guards that we'd have to cut? That he had that machine for the straps of the snow guards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like it was a 1 inch by whatever high.
Who do you think does that these days?
I have no clue. That they were heavy, like blocks of aluminum that
Timmy
in
is
straps.
the answer. Timmy is the answer. Oh, poor Timmy.
Yeah, when I think of like machining, that was that one machine that would just come down, press that thing out, and
Like a press, probably
Yeah,
like
it
a
was
press
a
brake, came
press
down.
punch, yep, cut
pressed
it out.
Yeah.
I
A
would,
little cooler.
yeah,
All right.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, he had a brake and the punch, and what else did he have? I'm trying to think what else there was there.
That was it. At Jan's.
Yeah. It was a special place. So, well, thank you for the incredible education.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no problem.
And yeah, we'll probably have some work for you.
Yeah.
Schearer Speed LLC. It's still sitting here.
Yeah.
Cheating.
Yeah, check us out on Instagram.
I
We
was
have an
gonna say, you
Instagram.
gotta- you
That's
wanna
a
give
good way to
yourself
reach
a little
out. Yeah, Schearer Speed LLC on.
Are you at like max capacity right now in your house? Or are you looking? to
Yeah,
go-
yeah. So my wife's full time there, and I work a full time job and do this after hours.
Oh,
so-
really?
yeah. So I do have a full time job.
Shit.
I work at Astro Machine Works in Ephrata, so I'm there full time.
No, like NDAs there or anything? Like they're all right with you doing this?
Well, so when I started there, I told them what I do. I told them that I
So
I
you
have
had
a
you
shop.
started your shop before you
Yes.
started for
Yep.
them.
Started my shop before I started for them, and they were, obviously there's that always what's gonna kind of happen thing, and just always being honest and upfront with them, and their field of what they're doing and what I'm doing is
Totally
pretty
different.
differently.
Right.
They're doing I work on a lot of government jobs there, like really cool stuff. One of the jobs we do is actually really cool. I'm pretty sure I can talk about it, but it's
Doesn't bother me.
They're actually retrofitting some of the AC-130s with these howitzer 105 millimeter guns.
Oh.
So we're starting to make some of the components for that. So it's,
Whoa.
I'm not going to be doing that in my basement.
in
So
Ephrata?
yeah, some cool stuff. So
It's amazing.
it's I really like working there. It's a great place to work.
That's awesome.
Everybody's there so great, down to earth. I love it. Like, so it's one of those things. Maybe down the road I would keep staying there, or maybe work from home. But
Right.
my wife's right now at home working full time, and then I'm doing it after hours, weekends. I'll literally zip out of here and throw my work,
Get back to it.
get back to it. I think the spindle's spinning now at home. So, but yeah, we're a year old, so we're still in the early stages. But it's our
Tell me you don't have a camera set up on whatever machine's running right now.
yes,
Okay. I know. I would.
yes.
I'm no professional,
With
but I would
text.
have a camera.
With text alerts telling me how things are going. So
That's pretty crazy. So I saw on your Instagram page too, you're into motocross and stuff.
Yeah.
All the bikes. And
oh
stuff?
yeah. That's kind of our big passion hobby. We love motocross and supercross, and I don't ride too much as I'd like to, just because it's a pretty dangerous sport. And
Yeah.
a little broken bone here may not be a big deal, but it
Do you
would
have any
affect my
kids?
job. Yes.
Yeah.
9-year-old daughter.
That's
so-
usually what prohibits most people from motocrossing.
Yeah, so she rides too. So
Oh,
she's out there
Jesus.
ripping. She's a little
Lord.
pistol. She's funny. So we all ride as a family, and it's
That's
fun.
awesome.
It's great. And as a sport, I watch it like crazy. I could geek out. I listen to like fantasy podcasts on it and stuff. So
Yeah, he texted me when
Fantasy podcasts
on
about
Supercross, yes. You should see the look.
You
on
two need to get together. I'm
You
sure
should,
you've got plenty to talk about.
You should look at the people's faces when I say, "Hey, are you getting in fantasy Supercross this year?" They're like, "I don't know what that is, and I didn't even know that existed." I'm like, "All right, well, see you at the draft."
Wow.
Yeah, he texted me and said about did I know about that Axel doing the Evil Live 2 thing? I was like, I already got my ticket when I was supposed to go to California.
Yeah, we were texting, messaging about that. Yeah,
Pussy canceled.
yeah. I think he broke both his ankles.
Evil would have done it.
Yeah, Evil would have done it. He would have taped them up. Do you follow him on Instagram at all, Axel?
I used to, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of cleared my Instagram up. I was following too many people that didn't follow me back, and I was
Yeah.
just trying to get the.
Shots fired. You heard it here, folks. You better fucking follow him.
You're out.
Damn.
You're out.
No love. Can we talk about the shirt?
Sure.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Arn.
So for the last couple months, Arn Anderson, old professional wrestler, started a podcast, and this was one of his more famous promos. He was a big-time bad guy.
He did this one time.
One time.
Yeah. It's amazing to me that he has a shirt based off of one thing that he
It was a
said
famous
35
promo.
years ago.
Famous promo. So they won, him and Tully Blanchard, they were part of the Four Horsemen, and they won the tag team titles. And he said, I hate to blow my own horn, but toot, toot.
Did he originate that
Yeah.
saying? Because I have used that and had no idea where it came from.
There it is.
That's great.
So now that Arn has his own show and that he's not committed to any one company, for the last 12 years that Tosh.o has had a show, he's been calling out Arn Anderson on like random shows, just saying how much he hates him. And they brought it up on Arn's podcast. They every 2 weeks they do a Q&A. It's Ask Arn Anything. And one of the questions was, did he know who Daniel Tosh was, and was he aware that he was shitting on him for the last 12 years, And he said, yeah, I know who Tosh is, and for the last 12 years I've been committed to the WWE. He's like, well, Tosh, I'm not committed to any one company anymore. He's like, so you better watch your back. And then Arn cut a promo like in front of his fireplace, like a heel promo on Tosh. So then on the one episode of Tosh.0, Tosh did a segment. It was a podcast called the Arn Sucks Podcast.
Oh my god!
And it was a video. It was video just like this, and it was just Daniel Tosh and like all of his pictures on the wall. It was all pictures of Arn Anderson. Like it was just like the walls were covered in Arn Anderson, and you find out that like the only reason he's been shitting on him for the last 12 years is because he didn't like him when he was a kid.
That's the only reason.
When he watched wrestling. Yeah, so now like it's been trending every once in a while. There's a hashtag Arn versus Tosh on so like I'm hoping that with this AEW that started that they're gonna do like an Andy Kaufman Jerry Lawler type gimmick with yeah, so it's been pretty funny to watch.
I thought that I was like looking at the glasses and it looked like something like Sam Tripoli would wear, like those like weird glasses and his eyes. I was like, I don't know, it might be.
Sam Tripoli is the tinfoil hat guy.
I got it. Any word
on
what happened?
He claims that it was because of the ads that they were doing on. Oh
yeah, I heard that
he got pulled from
they
YouTube.
Just pulled him out of thin air.
That's what he was.
No
claiming.
warning.
That's
no.
It was for
CMA takedown notification.
I thought it was for one of his ads.
The Blue
was
Chew
the
ad.
Blue
Yeah,
Chew.
that's what he was claiming. Yeah, so.
But there was no warning, no nothing.
No,
just
just
disappeared.
he woke up one morning and it was gone. So did I. Because
Why would an ad be enough for YouTube to yank you off of YouTube?
Well, it's a pill that you can just get over. Like you go online and have a doctor's interview like online, and they send you it's like a
so like medical marijuana in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But it's like a Viagra that I don't know. But that's why he got pulled. Apparently, according to him,
This microphone smells funny.
Joe Rogan called someone at YouTube. And
really?
Yeah, and his show's now, it was reinstated. Everything was put back on.
What?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan called YouTube.
Yeah.
Mr.
Sam
YouTube.
Tripoli went on Twitter and everything and thanked Joe Rogan for helping him get everything reinstated.
I'm going to spend the rest of my day looking into this whole situation now.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's something.
I mean, dude, Joe Rogan has over... a couple million views on every episode. He puts out 2 episodes a day sometimes.
Yeah, well,
he's got a lot of pull.
If I could just stay down here in my basement and have a bunch of cool people. No offense.
Yeah.
This was very cool. But it's only happening once a week. I mean, if I could do that every day and make a bunch of money and smoke as much endless pot that people bring to me and not worry about a job, that'd be great. That'd be really cool.
You focus on the podcast a little more.
Well, make it happen.
Start doing the video editing.
One of these days.
Anything else?
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff.
So what are your guys' podcasts besides this? This is the number one, of course. What else do you listen to?
Oh, I don't listen. I don't even listen to this.
Really?
No. For a while, I listened to it just to make sure I didn't say anything, damning that I would lose my job for, and then I would cut it out or tell him to cut it out. But
Once
now
we
I don't
started
do
on
that.
video, he doesn't.
No.
He has no say anymore.
All bets are off now.
Yeah. I listen to. I jump around a lot. But my go-to ones every week, I listen to the Church of What's Happening with Joey Diaz twice a week. If he's like takes a week off, I don't know what to do. I'm like, fuck, now what am I gonna listen to?
God, his stories are just. I've like been in like side stitches, just like what his life has been. That guy is unbelievable.
It's so crazy too. Like the stories that he tells, like he'll tell them like a year later to someone different, and he doesn't. It's the exact like he doesn't change anything because
because they happened.
Yeah.
You can tell when you look in his eyes.
The best is anything when he starts out. It was one time up in Boulder. I'm just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I listened to that Tinfoil Hat. I need to get caught up on. I used to listen to Tiger Belly a lot, Bobby Lee's podcast, but
Rogan's and
I listen to Rogan like if there's someone that I really want to hear. You know?
Yeah, I only watch like the highlights from Rogan. I don't
Yeah.
listen.
I have to bail when it gets like some of the political stuff.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, that just gets to be too much. I'm good.
or like Mark Maron, same thing. Like I'll listen to when he has someone that I know or care about. You know, or like Woody Harrelson was on there the other day. I listened to that. We listened to it on the way home from Thanksgiving with Nanny.
How was Thanksgiving?
Good. We went to Frostburg, Maryland, for JC's parents' house, and there were 21 people there.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many turkeys?
I think they just had one really big turkey.
Wow.
Yeah.
One turkey for 21 people.
Yeah, and it was
Was it like
there was plenty. I mean, it must have been a pretty. I didn't ask what size it was.
Dinosaur.
It was the size of me.
They cooked it overnight.
Oh.
They like put it in at like 11 at night and took it out the next day on like a low. It was I think 250, and they cooked it for like 8
That's
hours.
how you get the worms.
But no, tons
good?
of it was really good. Tons of sides and all kinds of stuff. There were. Do you know JC's sister Rachel? Have you ever met her?
I've never met anybody in the extended family.
All right. Well, her she lives in the Netherlands, and she had friends there in the Netherlands that moved to Canada, and they wanted to have an American Thanksgiving, so they drove I forget like 12 hours I think to Frostburg, Maryland, to have a American Thanksgiving, and they made a Dutch dish called Hutspot. And
Come to our Thanksgiving and you
bring
bring
that.
your shit with you.
what
Obviously, they don't know much about America.
what we all said that we thought it tasted exactly like pierogi filling.
Oh, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it was
Like
really
just
And that was
fried
just
onion and
stationary?
potato.
yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Was it in anything or
Nope.
just in a
No,
just
it's
took
just
a
like
bowl of the middle of a pierogi?
Yeah. And I actually went back when I went
Sign
back for
me
my
up.
second
Scoop
plate.
it out of the bowl and go to town.
When I went back for my second plate, I was going back for more chutzpah, and it was completely gone. Like they wiped it out. So
Wow.
yeah, it was really good. Lots of different, like 6 different types of pie, any type of pie.
They
that
had a
you
ton
could
of
want.
desserts
It was-
too. They had
I actually felt like very sick. I
I
said
did
to Barbara,
well.
like
I did really well.
I said to Barbara, we need to go back to the hotel room. I need to lay down. Like I don't feel good.
I incidentally couldn't lay down because it hurt to lay down, but I was fine sitting up. I was fine. I didn't eat too much for lunch, and then they had the $75 carrot cake.
$75.
Now, is this a regular size carrot cake?
Dollar.
Oh.
No, I don't know. It was about that tall, and it was about that wide. So it wasn't.
Carrot
It
tower.
wasn't huge. It was a carrot
Cake
tower.
tower.
It was enormous. It was like 2 layers. The bottom had the nuts around the outside, and the top didn't. It was awesome. So I had a big piece of that, and then they had custard, some sort of custard
gotta put the
cream.
custard on it.
Well, no, it was a whole separate pie, so I had to try some of that. and nobody liked it, so it came home with us. So I ate the rest of it later on in the evening
Jesus.
Now-
for dinner.
Now, do you show up to Thanksgiving with Tupperware, or you guys do
It's
that?
my in-laws,
okay.
so and they're right down the street. So they have my father-in-law loves like when you go to like the farmers market, like the large containers they have.
Oh yeah.
So he has like
Like
The
Falcons
2-pound
and-
containers?
Yeah. He has a whole shelf full of them.
Okay.
So they're prepared for
Yeah.
leftovers.
Yeah,
She goes over every Sunday and usually comes home with leftovers.
Yeah.
We could have taken leftovers, but we had a hotel room, so we didn't. But the plan was to come home on Saturday and then have our own Thanksgiving, like make a small like turkey breast or something and stuffing and all kinds of stuff. But I think we felt that sick still yesterday
Oh,
or
yeah.
Saturday when we.
Well, that's what Devin made. My wife made Thanksgiving dinner Monday.
Before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Monday. Why? She's like, I was really hungry for it. I'm like, we're having it in 3 days.
Go get a gobbler.
So whatever, it was really good, and then it was good again. They had a spiral ham.
Yeah, that's one thing that I could eat every day. I think is Thanksgiving dinner. Like I could. It's one of my.
I love it.
Meals.
Don't get me wrong, but like, I don't know. I'm a dessert guy.
I would have never been able to get
I'll eat a couple of turkey sandwiches. Though. I'm not going to say no to that. So, but no, we had a good time.
Yeah, I think I did like a turkey breakfast, like eggs and turkey.
Yeah.
Oh, what's for lunch? Oh, I'll have a turkey
Yeah,
sandwich.
that's what you
I was
gotta
like,
do.
all right, I think we just finished the last of the turkey this morning.
We did Chinese food Tuesday night. She went over, and I was on my own for dinner. Like Wednesday night, I had a cheeseburger. Then it was Thanksgiving dinner for the next 3 days.
Yeah, it's.
So,
I
whatever.
had to go run out, and I swung by Taco Bell. I'm like, oh my god, it's like non-turkey, and it's just like you're just gobbling down a taco.
I actually have to drive through Frostburg tomorrow or Tuesday. I might swing by and see if they have any leftovers. You got any more?
Hey, you guys promised me some leftovers. Why?
I'm going to a job in West Virginia.
Is it primarily
Bridgeport.
driving or flying?
It's mostly
Mix?
flying.
Yeah.
I told him I'd drive anywhere within like 8 hours.
Oh, okay.
Because I get 50 cents a mile if I drive my car. So, and I like to drive. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had the option to fly this week, but I like driving. So, and I've been flying for the last like few weeks, months. So,
Will that weather we're getting hit you at
yeah,
all?
that's why I'm not sure if I'm going to leave on Tuesday,
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday or not, because it's supposed to
Start tonight.
Yeah, all
Well, it was
day.
before I came when I was texting you.
Sleeting.
It was like I heard this like sleeting, and I'm like, uh oh.
Yeah, he
And then it
sent
turned
me-
into rain. I was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah. Well, when I went out early this morning, the car was like covered in a sheet of ice.
Oh wow.
And I was
Really?
like, yeah, like completely covered. So I went out like at 11 to start the car because I thought it might have had to melt, but it was all just rain then.
Yeah.
So
Hit the rain. Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. Anything else for us, bud?
I don't think so.
Me neither. Got
Zach,
anything?
thank you
more,
very
A lot of fun.
Some more promos.
One at a time, please.
one
One,
more-
person speaks at a time.
One more round of plugs where people
Yeah,
can find
just
you.
check us out. Instagram, Schearer Speed. Facebook, I believe, too. Briana's on top of that. Schearer Speed on Facebook. And reach out to us. We'll help in any way we can. So
Right on.
awesome. Thanks so
Chicken
much for having
ducks
us.
for everyone.
man.
Aluminum chicken ducks
Yeah.
for all.
Yeah,
That'll be-
hopefully
look-
soon. Hopefully soon. Yeah.
Keep an eye out for the website, chickenduckpod.com. You'll be able to buy them soon.
There you go.
Merch.
Yeah.
I'm always plugging.
I love it.
It's been emotional.
Goodbye.